All right, we are getting started officially. So might see a little bit of a new setup here. We're doing some audibling, making some changes around the office, and so just doing this from one of our conference rooms here. But gonna get started today and show a little bit about kind of what we've been cooking up with Postgres, and then dive into some use cases. So first off, want to demonstrate how easy it is to get started, how straightforward it is to get going with the process, plugging in your details, your credentials for your Postgres database, and then just seeing what it looks like, starting a chat with that. Then we can show, moving on, how can you use some of the other features of Julius with your Postgres database. So whether that is doing ad hoc analysis, exploratory analysis in a chat, or whether that is creating repeatable workflows out of real world data. So yeah, we'll just dive in a second here. It is, you guys might notice, I am a newbie to webinars, so I'll be learning on the fly as well here. So let me just change over my screen, see that I have the right one. Let's see. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So here, we're logged into Julius, and we can get started, just showing what it looks like, getting going with Postgres. So you go into your data connectors. You can see I've got two Postgres connections here already. One is for a personal app that I had built back in the day, and then another one is for a demo setup that we're going to walk through a little bit today. You can see our new Slack integration here. So as we're going through Postgres, we can also show off a little bit about how some of that can be sent directly into Slack. So, if you have work that you're doing and you're working in your workspace, you have questions that you're asking, why not just have those answered right away, right? Like have them answered right where you're working. So we'll get to that later in the webinar. First off, though, clicking into Postgres, really simple and straightforward to start setting up your connection. So if you've ever used any sort of query editor, which if you have a Postgres connection, you must have at some point. If you ever used any sort of query editor, then this should look pretty familiar. You put in your user credentials, put in where your database is hosted. You're going to want to make sure that you have Julius whitelisted for your database. So, not great practice to go 000 zeros on all connections, allowing everything. But you do want to make sure that you do have these addresses whitelisted so that they can read from your database and your schemas. So going back into here, we covered the host, the port, whatever you're set up on, and the database name that you're going to be exploring. So then you can name this whatever you'd like. We do have options for SSHing directly into your Postgres. We're not going to use that today as we already have a connection set up. But as you're going through, if any questions come up, please go check out our documentation as well. We've got pretty robust and growing documentation. Ooh, that should have linked to the docs. If you go to, yeah, you see, we learn every day here too. But if you go to Julius, Julius AI/docs, you'll be able to see some of the docs around getting your Postgres set up. So here, set up PostgreSQL, and some of the common questions that users have, such as going through IP whitelisting, some of the errors that come up, and then some data around our security practices too. Security is a ground-up focus here, of course, when connecting any sort of data sources. So I want to make sure that you guys have access to all of that right from the jump, really. So we're going to close up the docs now. I'll go ahead and make a new chat and just show what it looks like right as you get connected here. So here we've got our Postgres demo, and damn, that is lightning fast. This is that's something that we've been working on. It used to take 20 to 30 seconds oftentimes to connect into your database. Now we've got that connection time down. You guys saw it was about, I don't know, a second maybe right there. I think we've got our average time around 1.5 seconds right now, so rapidly improving. On the right-hand side, it's traditionally, if you're using a SQL editor, it's traditionally kind of tough to navigate around what is where in my database. How are things actually named? You might have, if you're using like pgadmin or something, you might have the ability to see all your columns, but you can't really see the format of what all the data looks like. You can't really see it in a way that it essentially gives you a preview of everything. You'd have to run like a select star from marketing.events limit 10 or something and just do that recurringly. Whereas instead, you can just have Julius do that for you. So clicking through, we can start to see what some of the mappings look like in our database. And this is a relatively clean database just for the purpose of showing what it looks like. But it does work with highly complex databases as well, and we'll get into some of the learned information that comes around that too. Basically, Julius has a learning subagent as you're going through asking questions where no matter how complex this gets, it's going to learn how to map across your databases and perform the complex joins needed to answer your questions. So we'll start out with some pretty basic questions here, and then we'll look into kind of exploring what it looks like, creating replicability around that. So let's just run an exploratory data analysis on our marketing data. Show me 5 key visuals that are driving marketing performance. So we're going to run this, and Julius is going to start combing through our schema, our tables, and spitting out some visuals that hopefully give us some insights on what's been working in our marketing department. And from there, we can either always keep exploring, or we can dive deep on something in particular. So if we see something that's working well, like we're going to want to go ahead and, like in any business case, expand upon that quite a bit and see what we can learn, really. So we can see Julius doing some thinking here. You can always click on some previews of what exactly it's jumping into. And it's already got some suggestions for us here, but we'll hold off on those for the moment. All right, so as this is generating, there are a couple other things that we've added recently that you might be noticing around the platform. So continue in Slack up here. We're really, we really love seeing users start to use the Slack integration that we have. And we use it every day at Julius, like asking our database questions in Slack. It's so interesting because, myself or Tyler or Simon or Rahul, one of us will post a question in Slack, and then suddenly it just triggers a bunch of new thoughts like, oh, I actually have a question about this now. I have a question about this now, or I want to follow up on the question that they asked. And being able to do that right where you are doing most of your messaging is so helpful. It's so useful. There's I know it's Halloween, but there's nothing spooky about it.
It's Halloween. Just put on your hat.
Oh yeah. I've got courtesy of Tyler. I've got my old man cap here. I forgot to put this on, so we're gonna rock this. Let me see how I look. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So this is my Halloween costume. I hope that you guys are all having an enjoyable and safe Halloween too. We're gonna have to make this one the thumbnail. All right, Julius is because we put a pretty broad query just to run some exploratory analysis in here. Julius is doing a lot of combing. It's learning our database and our schemas on the fly here, and it looks like it's starting to get to graphing some stuff out. So we'll show you exactly how it learns in just a few moments as we start to get some outputs and ask some follow-up questions. We can jump into a side thread and start walking through that too.
The hat helps. It feels so wise, Seriously.
I was joking with Tyler earlier that it's kind of like an Albert Einstein wig. And so if you want to be smart like Einstein, he would use Julius.
Oh, jeez. Can you imagine?
Why work through all the muddy data work when you can have Julius do it for you? We can see some nice charts coming out about what our ROAS looks like, 7-day moving average of it. All this was really intuitive by Julius. We didn't really, as you can see up top, we didn't do any directed prompting. Like, it's just an exploratory analysis. What are the 5 key visuals that we can pull out of this? So daily ROAS, monthly spend versus revenue, channel efficiency, Okay, pretty interesting stuff. Pretty interesting stuff. Monthly rollout. Okay, so I want to know like what campaigns are performing best. So let's just dive into that too. Uh, can you show me how all of my campaigns performed visually? And then maybe let's highlight what the best campaign is on top of that. So after that, highlight what our top campaign was and how it performed over time. I can't really say other things when I'm typing something. It's one of my weaknesses. So if excuse me for having to speak a little slowly as I go through each prompt. We have a couple of other interesting things. So we noted the Slack integration, which I'm sure that you guys have seen before. Um, Underneath our data connectors here, we also have dashboards that are coming out very shortly. They might be available for everyone right now. We're not like doing a big launch around them just yet, but they're coming very soon. And so if you guys start playing around with them, adding in specific panels around your data and building those into dashboards, let us know what you think and let us know what's working well and what could be improved, because they are something that we are pushing hard for over the next couple weeks to start rolling out more broadly. And then beneath that, we have our custom agents available. So if you have your Postgres database here and you want an agent that's trained specifically on, say, your marketing schema, and you want to ask it specific questions, like if you think about what a custom GPT does, you can train that really well so that it performs on specific sets of data and around specific questions really well. And that's the flexibility that we give with the custom agents here on the left-hand side. So we'll save those for another webinar, but just another couple things to look out for as you start to poke around Julius, and particularly as you connect in and hook in your Postgres database. So we can see some of the querying that Julius is doing. Julius hasn't really run into many errors querying this database just yet. And I always love when it does run into errors, because then you can see like how it learns right on the fly. So, right now it's one-shotting it. But if you do have errors that come up as you query, you'll be able to see in real time Julius take in those learnings and then iterate upon them until it's able to get you the answer that you need. And I'm not sure if we've covered this on a webinar either, but if we were to flip this to the SQL button here, then you can just use Julius to build out custom queries as well. So if you just type in a question, Julius will build a query around that question, and then you can either run that right inside of the SQL editor that we provide, or you can export it as needed into other sources as well.
Yeah, we haven't covered that, so that's interesting.
All right. Very nice. All right, Julius is taking a minute to go through this. Oh, it's making us some HTML. All right, we might get a nice looking chart here. In the meantime, who is this? Oops. In the meantime, I want to dive in, because I know we're about halfway through here. I want to dive in a little bit to what it looks like when Julius learns from your data. And so, as mentioned, when Julius runs into errors, it is able to like kind of learn from those errors on the fly, and then keep that information that it learned for next time. And so if you want Julius to build out a semantic layer on your database such that it's almost building like the knowledge base for your database without having to import one separately or manually build one out, Julius is going to do that for you. Now, if you have one separately that you want to bring in and you want to upload those as individual pieces, you can do that just fine. And if you don't want that to change at all, you just freeze your schema here and it'll just keep all these learnings as is. You can make edits to these if needed. Like I could just start typing in like, I don't know, we don't do marketing or something like that. And it would just save it in here as well. So, it's learning from these based on whether you're editing it or if you just want it to run all on its own and be automated, it's going to do that fine too. And then you can add in separate properties as well if needed. So a lot of flexibility with this. Custom instructions as well. If there's an example here, always filter data by current fiscal year. If your business has specific definitions around maybe what churn looks like for your group, like maybe you guys measure it by 6 months instead of 12 months. Maybe you have specific definitions around how you track revenue year over year. Like maybe you include certain metrics that are, like based on different GAAP principles. You can add that in here, and Julius will make sure that it tracks that for you too. And then if you'd like, you can always share this connection with the rest of your team. So if I were in a team here, which I'm not, but if I were in a team here, I could share this so that other members of my team would also have access to it as well. And so if you are, say, the owner of a data team, and there is a specific user that you create on your Postgres instance that has permissions to one part of your database, and you want to pass that along to marketing with a bunch of information already stored on it so that they have guardrails on how they're able to use their chat. You effectively can bring that governance right into Julius and share this with that marketing team so that they have the same access that they should, and you would like to provision outside of Julius. It looks like Julius is diving deep here. So it's still running some code. We might cut this off in a second just because it's going to produce something that's maybe a little bit more granular than we're hoping for, and just for the sake of time. In the other thread, we'll let this run for a couple more minutes, but in the other thread here, I'd love to start a notebook just to kind of show you guys how, how we might see a repeated workflow analysis come into play with your Postgres. So this is something that we use on our team every day. Like we have these reports being generated across different parts of our team and being sent right into our Slack, being sent into our emails, just to make it that much easier to share knowledge across our internal team. So right now we can see, I already ran this notebook earlier, and we were able to get some pretty interesting charts kind of indicating what our high ROAS campaigns were. And then I actually told Julius, like, hey, let's do some forecasting on top of this. And so we can see, like, okay, with our top campaign, this is where projected ROAS goes to by spend. And so we would want to cut off our spend kind of at this point here, where we're then, to make sure that we're getting, ROI positive demonstrations on, everything that we're doing. So I'll go ahead and restart a new notebook, and we can walk from the ground up, see what that looks like. So here I can connect in my data source really easily. And maybe this time around we'll explore our other set of data. We'll explore some RevOps data here. So let's look at the RevOps schema. What are some key takeaways that we can demonstrate visually about our business? And so we'll run this, and then depending on what this spits out, maybe we'll build out a workflow around some of the responses here. So we'll chain together a system of prompts that makes sense in terms of what we'd be looking to gain out of our business here. We'll do one quick check-in here. Oh, it looks like Julius has finished creating at least its initial analysis of top campaigns over time. Campaign F on Google apparently is a good one. One really cool thing, if you are focused on the marketing use case in particular, is we have a lot of ad agencies that use Julius, and they're able to manage spend super effectively around keywords just using Julius itself. Julius can write new keywords if needed, or if instructed to, and you can just put this on a scheduled runtime so that every day it's checking which keywords were effective, which weren't, what is the history of our keyword usage, and what should we do next? How should we change what our ad strategy is in real time? And this can be a really effective way to use Julius. So this is still going forward. We'll jump back into the other thread.
One question in the chat says, interesting working with Julius. Is exec the function used by Julius run LLM generated codes?
Is exec?
Yeah. I don't think
So no, the exec function isn't used because it's in a runtime environment of its own that just builds out all scripting in Python and then is able to. So maybe it runs these in a Jupyter server, and so depending on if Jupyter server, when you press run in Jupyter, uses the exec function, then maybe it does. But in terms of what we add on, we don't have to add on the exec function because it's just executing through standard Jupyter cells.
Damn.
That's a good question though.
Good question,
Yeah. And I'm 99% sure I answered that correctly, but maybe one of our other engineers will have some slight amendments to that. Okay, so let's see. Julius showed us our RevOps tables looked like. Okay, visuals to build. It just gave me a number of visuals to build. Okay, well, this still gives us stuff to dive into. So we'll go ahead and add some more cells down here. Let's see, what do we want to do next? Look through our user activities. What activities are particularly effective? And then, after that, like this is something, say, you might want to run weekly in your business. Which activities are really working well? What opportunities are most lucrative for our business? Show them visually. And then finally, propose a spend strategy to take advantage of the information given by both user activities and our opportunities. So we're just going to run all of these from here now. And while Julius is going to work, I'm going to click into a couple other points around here. So if you guys haven't tried out the scheduled runs yet, we just created like what a workflow would look like. We want to measure all of the, what the users are doing on our platform. We want to measure the different opportunities that we're prospecting. And then we want to see what can we actually do with those. And so this is something where in a real business, you might want to see this every day, every week, every month. And you can come in and just schedule this to show you that. This is going to send you an email once this is finished up, so you can click in and easily have this available to you, as well as shareable with your team. And if you guys use Slack, I don't have this for Teams yet, but if you use Slack, you can report this right in Slack too. So when you hook up your Slack, you'll be able to easily connect this right in so that it'll take this final report with a lot of the visuals that you're generating, information that you're generating, sending it right into your shared channel so that your entire team can see. As mentioned, don't have it for Teams just yet, but that is coming very shortly. All right, and so now hooked into our Postgres. This is like, there's so much power when you're able to hook an LLM into your database and have it really build on the functionality that's packaged into the Julius environment. So being able to have a system that is intelligent, understands your schemas, can go through your questions, understand the business context of those questions, and then parse through the relevant answers it's quite amazing. As mentioned, we use it so frequently internally here at Julius.
Can we turn up the volume just a little bit? I heard from someone on the OBS. We'll just turn this guy up just a little bit more.
Yeah, let's.
Just a little bit there and see if this helps.
Okay, hopefully that's a little bit better there.
Cool.
Wow, we got some nice lucrative opportunities here. Okay. All right, so we got some enterprise opportunities, some big deals on the table. Always want to get those whales. Graphing them out separately here by revenue and when they were created at. Okay. All right, and now it's going to help give us a spend strategy. Take advantage of these. And we finished up in our other chat over here. All right, so spend strategy is given. This is looking between both our marketing and our RevOps data. So building optimization spine using ROAS, pipeline, and close dates. And then, like I just said, whale hunting. I hadn't run this question before, so that just is kind of by happenstance. All right, fund ABM and retargeting against. Yeah, this is all similar with what we even see in our line of work too. The type of spend that we put forward. And then generic business context also built in, protecting LTV to CAC ratio. Really important for any business to make sure that the value of the users that you're bringing in exceeds the cost of them. Otherwise, how do you have anything sustainable? And finally, some North Star metrics. Okay. All right. Let's say we're going to try something crazy here. We're going to say pick your highest probability strategy, implement it with spend, and forecast our revenue for the next 12 months. All right, so this is this is very broad here. This is going to be a challenge here, but we'll see how Julius approaches this. It should pick one of these 8 options here. Use the data that we have in our RevOps table to forecast out based on what the spend strategy looks like in marketing. And then, we should hopefully see some nice looking graphs around how that actually comes to play. So this is applicable for just so many business use cases. And once again, just goes back to note how useful it is being able to hook your data into a smart system like this. This is the type of work where, if you're trying to build a, say, sensitivity analysis or just do anything like this where you're trying to forecast different options, it might take you, if you're very skilled at it, it might take you a day or two to fully plan out each one of those. And if you have 40 different sensitivity analyses that you're trying to run, that's going to take weeks. It might even take months, to really get a good idea of what's going to move the needle for your business. So being able to hook in directly, like I said, the intelligence system, the LLM, and your Postgres data all together in one place, so useful in terms of running through those insights really quickly and getting something actionable that you can then take out of them. And then, another positive of using Julius is you always have the code. If you want to export it and take it anywhere else, if you want to verify it externally, always can do that too. We can see that, okay, we've got demo-led growth here. Okay, what does it want to do next? You know what, I just wanted to show me some visuals. So show me 3 key visuals on how this will play out. And so the other nice thing about notebooks is I could label this as our weekly optimization spend plan and save this here. I could share it with my team here, and so anyone can come in and run it, or we can just have it automatically run and send an update to everyone on the team. So say before our meeting next Friday, we have something that we can immediately show with data, gives us a plan for the week, how we can go forward and take something actionable out of the data that really lives in our database. All right, I know that we are running low on time here and Julius is still cooking. So once it finishes producing this visual, we'll wrap it up. If there are any questions, feel free to either post them in the chat or just shoot us an email, whether it's team@julius.ai or one of our individual emails. Feel free to reach out with any questions that come up as you start to hook in your database. Make sure that you read our documentation as well. It really helps a lot of users as they first get started. Know which fields to look for if they're not super familiar with plugging in their Postgres data otherwise. We can see, these nice visuals come out, baseline total, as well as some confidence intervals on what outputs might look like depending on different channels that we optimize around. Really cool. Next 12 months looks like it could be promising on LinkedIn, but maybe want to avoid some of these other strategies. And yeah, that is talking with your Postgres. So we are at time here, but I want to thank everyone for joining today. It has been fun doing my first webinar, so happy that everyone else was able to join. Hope that you guys liked my hair here. But any questions come up, always feel free to send us a message, and please join us on the next one. Thanks.